let's move on to the Broncos-Patriots.
Yeah.
It's a low point for Patriots fans. My goodness. Of all the teams that I thought would be able to handle the unpredictability, the uncertainty of the pandemic, it was the New England Patriots. But that was not to be. Let's hear some of the sound coming out of yesterday's home loss to the Denver Broncos, 18-12.
Nobody cares, about what the it was or what the reasons were. And to be honest with you, I don't care either. I'm not expecting people to care. My job here moving forward is to find ways to win football games, to put this team in the best situation. And it just starts with protecting the football. And that's what this game came down to.
How much did the limited amount of fully padded practice time you've had in recent weeks do you feel had on today's game?
I don't know. But you want a percentage? I have no idea.
Always happy. At least he's no different in victory than he is in defeat. I had somebody email me last night. Why do people tolerate that? Why is that appropriate for him to treat professionals that way? And we're just numb to it because he's got 8 rings. But really, in what profession is it acceptable to be that dismissive of somebody who's just trying to do their job? And I've said this before, and let me say it again. If he doesn't like that, then he should go coach high school lacrosse where nobody cares and nobody's going to want to talk to him. And he doesn't have to deal with the media and not be a butthole. And I almost said the other word. You can say them separately. You can't say them together. I almost said, why does he have to? But why does he have to be that way, Chris? And why do we put up with it?
No, because he's the greatest coach of all time. There's no denying that. I mean, what he does is amazing that way. It is the worst thing about him, though. Yes, I don't know. I don't know why he fights it. He wasn't always that way. You go back to the early days, he was very charismatic when you saw him in Cleveland or the Jets or the Patriots, press conferences, things that way. I don't know why he's like that. It is the one side of him that it does bother me. I can't lie. As a guy that's a fan of Bill Belichick and known him for a long, long time, I don't know why he treats people like that either at times. I don't get it.
Yeah, I mean, I get the awkwardness that you see from him from time to time in the interpersonal relationships. The guy who, as you've said, you're walking down the hallway at the facility and he's like up against the wall. I mean, that's a quirkiness, but
yeah.
there's a meanness that flashes from time to time. And I just don't think you should treat other professionals that way in that type of a setting. So let's talk about the game. I can understand why he was upset. His offense couldn't do much of anything. The Broncos did their best to let them hang around. Usually in a game like that, Chris, when you see field goal, you just assume it's a matter of time before the other team starts scoring touchdowns and you're done. And that never quite happened. It almost happened, but they weren't quite able to get it done.
Well, that's it. It almost did happen. You're right. I mean, first off, Drew Lock, he came out, made some great throws to start the game, kind of got them going and jump-started that way. But I think ultimately the theme of the game was, lackluster drives by New England. And here's the drive chart if you're watching with Denver. It wasn't a really impressive day, but they got points. And they didn't make a lot of mistakes until the end of the football game, and you see those 2 interceptions, which gave Cam Newton and everybody a little life. But we're not used to seeing the Patriots be sloppy like that. 2 interceptions. There's another point. You go, okay, here they go. Izzo catches the tight end. Izzo catches a big catch down the middle of the field, fumbles right on the edge of field goal position. They're getting a first down. Then it's another drive, and you're going, okay, here they go. They got their mojo. The snap over Cam Newton's head that knocks them out of field goal range. So there was it showed. Hey, we saw one team last week in the Tennessee Titans who miraculously went out and played like the cleanest football game and looked like they didn't miss a beat. New England's been through a lot of crap the last 2 weeks, and it showed. It really did. They're still a new team, too, with a lot of new missing parts. I think we forget that because the uniforms and Belichick are there and everything stayed the same. But, I think with Cam Newton as the quarterback and some of these young receivers and all the guys they got that are different on the defensive side of the ball, it showed that they're a team that is not complete. They're still a work in progress, and it's as sloppy as I've seen them in a long time.
And if you can't practice, how do you get yourself ready to play?
Tough.
The COVID-19 situation. Again, I thought the Patriots would be the last team to be affected by this in a negative way. They'd have a plan for everything. But with all of the issues they've had, starting with Cam Newton a couple of weeks ago, it was fine. They were clean. Everything was great. It looked like they were going to have a positive all year long. It's going to be fine. They've cracked the code on COVID-19.
Yeah.
It started 2.5 weeks ago with Cam Newton. And, when you just don't play, when he doesn't play and they don't play, It's actually, was it 3 weeks ago that this whole
Yes,
thing
it's been 3 weeks since Cam Newton's played. It's 3 Newton since he's played.
It's 3 weeks for him. They've been dealing with the issues. They've got interior offensive linemen like James Ferentz, who's on the COVID-19 list. They got a bunch of guys on the COVID-19 list. And we're seeing what happens when you're the one team that is having these issues. And we're going to talk about the Titans coming up. It makes it even more impressive what they've been able to do.
Yep.
Dealing with their own issues. The Patriots haven't been able to deal with it. I mean, you take the Titans out of the building for 16 days, they're champing at the bit to get back and start kicking people's butts. You take the Patriots away, and they feel lost.
Well, yeah. I mean, listen, hey, the Titans are a more talented football team than the Patriots. That's not a question. And it's pretty much the same team from last year, too. So they at least have that unity. And as we know, they also snuck away and had a few practices by themselves. So, they did do that, but they have that advantage. New England, like we said, with all the opt-outs of the COVID-19, different people in the front seven, all that, they got to coach those guys up. Some of those guys, are early in their career too. So COVID-19, is taking away the Patriots' greatest element of their football team in this little bit of a semi-rebuild year, right, where they were going to kind of rebuild but probably still be 10-6 and go to the playoffs or something. But the biggest advantage New England has as a football team is Bill Belichick. And the fact that he can't be in the meetings and, hey, we're going to do this walkthrough and remember to look for this. And, hey, coaches, did you coach him to do this? Because we got to worry about this when they're that's the greatest strength of their football team. And that's lost through Zoom meetings. Yeah, he's still coaching and doing all that, but not the way and to the extent New England likes to get things done and what separates themselves from the pack. So to me, yeah, it's a tough one for them. And it's going to continue to be a battle because the offense is a work in progress and everything like that.
First time below 500 this late into the season since 2001. Now, 2001 worked out pretty well
yeah,
for the New
That's
England
right.
Patriots. They eventually found their groove, and that's the silver lining. If you're a Patriots fan, they still can figure this out.
They can.
They still can get it together. I remember, I think it was, and this game came up last night because Drew Lock throwing multiple interceptions and his team still winning at New England was only the second time in the Belichick era that's happened. The other time, Week 10, 2001, Kurt Warner with the Rams. I think it was a Sunday night game. The Rams won. The Patriots fell to 5-5.
Right.
And then they mashed on the gas pedal after that. So there's still time. Just hang around 500 until Thanksgiving. Let Belichick do his thing in December.
Yeah.
Hope you can have 3 practices a week to prepare for each game. You get guys off of the COVID-19 list by then. And look, I'm still not ready to give up on the New England Patriots until they're dead. It's like I did it last year.
Yeah.
The Terminator never dies
Never.
until he's dead, like he was against the Titans.
Right.
But I'm not. I think the worst thing you can do is assume they're done at 2-3.
There's a lot of, if they, like you said, if they can practice, get a little healthy here on the offensive line, there's still a lot to like about their football team. And as crappy as they played, they had a chance there yesterday. I mean, in an NFL football game, as crappy as that was and as beat up as they were, they did have a chance. I mean, you're right about that. And we've seen, hey, without Cam Newton, they had the Kansas City Chiefs on the ropes wobbly. They were on the 1-foot-yard line versus the Seahawks, who were all saying is the best team in the NFC. So they shouldn't give up hope. They got to remember that. The only thing I worry about, Mike, and a little something I brought up on Football Night in America last night, the AFC is so damn good, it's unbelievable. And I just worry about them, falling too far behind to where, this could be one of those years where you got the Colts right now as a 7th seed who end up being 10-6 in the playoffs. I mean, the AFC is just so good. We had those discussions. There's no middle class really in the NFL. It's there's a lot of really awesome and there's a lot of really crap. And I worry about that aspect as far as the Patriots' playoffs hopes a little bit.
The Denver Broncos are trying to move from the latter category to the former category. And look, we got to give them some credit.
Yeah,
they did get the win, even though, as Vic Fangio told me after the game, head coach of the team, biggest win so far that he's had, obviously, as the coach of the Denver Broncos. You're not going to beat the Chiefs next weekend if you can't score touchdowns.
Negative goes
You've
right.
got to score touchdowns. You can't swap field goals for Patrick Mahomes doing what Patrick Mahomes does. But this has to be the kind of game, Chris, that gives a team some confidence that they can do something positive. And, it's not like they get blown out by the Chiefs every time they play them. I think that if you're the Broncos, there's a way to glean from what they were able to do yesterday, especially defensively, that they can maybe slow down the Chiefs. But like we saw last week between the Raiders and the Chiefs, you slow them down a little bit, but you still have to outscore them. So it's both sides of the coin that need to be taken care of. But the defense gave the Broncos a lot of reason to be happy yesterday against the Patriots. Now the offense is going to have to step up to make it 2 in a row.
Yeah,
and actually it would be 3 in a row,
right? Because
they hadn't played since that Thursday night against the Jets.
You're right. Well, I think the first thing that we need to you're right. We got to give Denver credit. We got to give Drew Lock, because everybody's just going to see the interceptions at the end of the game. That Drew Lock was a big part of why they got off to a good start too. Now, it wasn't like it just blew, but he made a few throws where it totally flipped the field position. I bet you it made New England go, wait, do we really want to play man-to-man and get in the face of these guys today? Because Lock seems like he's totally comfortable throwing 40-yard lasers down the field. I mean, he had 10 completions for 189 yards. So that just tells you what kind of throws he was attempting. They were pushing the ball down the field. And then Fangio, he's a mastermind that way. And you're right. There's things to like. I mean, Simmons and Jackson at the back end of the safety position, they're pretty good in the secondary there. Bradley Chubb popped a few times yesterday. I don't think they're ready for Kansas City primetime, but with that quarterback and some of the young pieces have, Denver is one of those teams where you just go, man, I'm excited about what they could be in the future.
And they've been through plenty of adversity, just like the Patriots. And, they had a running backs coach, Curtis Modkins, land on COVID-19 on Saturday. They had, it seems like there's 6-7 teams that just have this thing constantly swirling around and they can't get away from it. And I feel like when they do, someone else will step in to that spot. And it's just going to migrate around the league all year long and maybe come back around to some of these teams. And it's just amazing to see how it's blossomed into its own separate chunk of the news coverage. At one point on Friday or Saturday, every top story was COVID-19 related, whether it's the Falcons, whether it's the Jaguars. But a lot of teams, and really most teams, haven't had issues. That's what makes it so glaring with that handful that do. But kudos to the Broncos for dealing with the distractions, dealing with the issues, and getting things taken care of. And the Patriots going to have some work to do. But first and foremost, got to be able to practice. And if you can't practice, you can't get a work-in-progress rebuild team ready to go.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.